So here we are with the new XC90, and with this, Volvo has reaffirmed their status as providing the best and safest seven-seater SUV on the market. Of course, with the recently released EX90, there were a lot of changes they wanted to bring to the XC90 to bring it up to the standard of their newer cars. Of course, a lot of it will be familiar to people that already know the XC90 inside and out, but there are some major changes that are worth talking about, and I'll start walking you through those. So the first one is the redesign of the Thor's Hammer LED headlights. You can see they've gone with a much more modern single strip of LEDs that run around the outside edge of this central section. Gives the car a really nice profile, and also when the lights are on, it just looks really cool. There's also a new animation for indicating as well as unlocking the car. You'll see it sweep across the headlight itself, so that always looks really nice when cars do that. You've got the most obvious change, which is the new grille, which I'm a huge fan of. They've gone with these diagonal slats that run across the entire width of the grille, changing direction at the Volvo strip down the center. Now, of course, the Volvo strip runs through the middle of the badge and is to signify the seatbelt, which of course Volvo invented all the way back in 1959. And the XC90 itself has been a staple of the Volvo range of cars since 2002. Can you believe it's been 23 years since the first XC90 came out? And honestly, if you told me what it would look like now when it came out in 2002, I wouldn't believe you. Unbelievable improvement that they've made over time. With this being a Plus model, you also benefit from the front-facing camera in the grille, forms part of the 360-degree camera system. That's also been improved to give you a better overhead view when you are trying to maneuver in tight spaces. Moving down the side of the car, this will look a bit more familiar than just the front, but they've added new designs for the alloy wheels, and they've also implemented air suspension on every rung of the trim levels for the XC90. So no matter what trim level you pick, you're going to be getting a really nice premium feeling ride. So that is a big improvement overall. Still benefited from key features like your keyless entry, your blind spot warning, tinted rear windows, of course. And then moving around the back, you've still got the Maui's hook LED headlights, or LED rear lights, I should say, LED tail lights even, which look the same as they did previously, but they've also been given a little bit of a tint on the shrouding, which again just modernizes them. A lot of cars nowadays are going with darker rear lights, still visible of course, but just adds that level of modernity whilst keeping the classic design that Volvo are very famous for. In the boot, you'll see we've got the standard arrangement of 3 rows. You can see the third row right-hand side seat is currently in position, and even with that seat in position, you'll notice that you've got plenty of room across this back here for your weekly shop and such. And they do form-fitting accessories like this rubber mat, which basically allows you to protect the carpet liner, and this also can fold over to fill up the entire boot space. So if you are loading items in that are potentially going to damage or dirty the rear carpets, then you can alleviate that very simply. And you'll notice if I fold this seat down, the boot opens up into, again, what the XC90 is famous for, which is just a huge boot space, and a very convenient to access one as well. You've also got your air suspension controls now, again, because they're on all of the different trim levels. You've got these 2 buttons right here, allow you to lower the back of the car. And that makes loading items in just that little bit easier. And of course, the car will self-level when you put it into drive. So if you do end up putting a tow bar in the back and hitching a caravan, the car will also self-level as well, which is a really handy feature to have. And in terms of its appearance, you'll notice from the back, not too much has changed, barring the slight tint on the rear lights. And I think that's a really good step to make, because too many car companies have fallen into the trap of completely redesigning the car from the ground up, and in some cases it worked out, but in a lot of cases it just doesn't feel the same anymore. And I think that the XC90 have a really nice look to it. They've improved the grille, and the back has stayed as handsome as it always has. So I think that's a really big win for Volvo there. But overall, that's the major changes for the outside. We're now going to hop inside the car, talk you through the new interior, and then we'll get out on the road and see how it drives. One thing I really love about the new XC90 is just the level of familiarity it will have to anyone that's used to the previous versions of the XC90, and even just the current crop of Volvo cars, in that they haven't tried to reinvent the wheel. They've kept a lot of the functionality very similar to what you'll be used to. They've just added enhancements that are kind of desired by a more modern take on interiors. So one of the first ones, and the most obvious one, is the larger central display. So again, they've opted for the newer layout for the infotainment system, means you've got much better access to a lot of your functionality. So for example, if I'm navigating with Google Maps up at the top of the screen, but I want to activate Google Assistant, or even just view the camera, or even just change the drive mode, I can very simply just tap one of these buttons to do so. It makes life so much easier. You can of course still full screen the map, and you do have your contextual buttons down here. Google Maps works as beautifully as it always has. So you've got your map display right there. Search bar, very easy just to key in what you're looking for, and it's got contextual search. You don't have to know exactly what you're looking for. If you want it to find something, it will do that for you absolutely very well indeed. You've also got quick access to buttons below here. So fuel, restaurants, supermarkets and cafes makes it much easier to find exactly what you're looking for. Now, in terms of the other, I lost my train of thought there, sorry, but we'll do that again. What I wasn't too happy with that. So one of the best things about the new XC90 is the level of familiarity it will have to any existing Volvo customers. That's one really great thing about it, is that you'll get in and you'll settle right into what you're used to. The differences and changes that they've made are only there to enhance the user's experience, foremost being the larger central display in the middle of the dashboard, as you can see here. So the larger display, more screen real estate, gives you more to play with. So they've also implemented the EX30 and EX90 layout, if you want to call it. It's not the exact same, but it is. A lot of the cues from that have been taken from the newer EX30 and EX90. So one of them is that even if you do have your map full screen at the top of the display here, you do have access to contextual buttons down here at the bottom. So if you want to access the voice assistant or your camera, and you've got your map all the way open on the screen, you can still get to it very easily. There's also a new overview button, which basically allows you to get into some quick controls much more easily. So you've got quick controls for things like your lane keeping aid, your alarm mode, which is a very handy feature for people that own dogs, because you can literally tap that. That will turn the interior alarm off. You can leave the dogs in the car without worrying about the alarm going off, which is really good. And also the headrest fold, very handy feature for adding extra visibility through the rear. As you can see there, the rear second row headrests have now folded down, which is very good. And if you want to get access to your full crop of settings, they've added all these different headings with a more visual approach in terms of what it's offering within those settings menus, and a lovely new icon for the XC90, which I'm a big fan of. So again, much bigger display, allows for much bigger controls, much easier to read text. So huge benefit on that side of things. But barring that, all of the functionality that you'll be used to on your current Volvo will be very familiar to you on this new XC90, which is great, and of course give us the opportunity to guide you through it when you come to have a test drive. You've also got your physical row of buttons down here, your glove box, your track select and volume control, and then you've got your rear window defrost, front window demist, and then you've got your hazard light switch right there. So again, quick access to things that you'll need to use more regularly than not. A new place for the wireless charger to live, so it's not taking up space in the center cup holder arrangement. It actually goes right there. You can rest your phone on the pad and it keeps it out of the way, and means that you're not having to either have additional space for cup holders or a place to charge your phone. The actual cup holders themselves have been improved, so you've got two cup holders for larger cups and then a central one for smaller drinks. So if you've got like a bottle of orange juice from McDonald's, for example, that would fit very neatly into that center cup holder. And then you've got a much larger armrest space inside here, and this is also where you've got your 12-volt outlet and your charging sockets, and that one there will still allow you to do Apple CarPlay and Android Auto directly through to the central infotainment screen. Rear passenger climate controls, really handy to have. Your heated seats and also the climate vents themselves. Great position, means that if somebody gets out of the car and have accidentally left them switched on, you can very easily just tap right there, so you're not wasting additional power, which is again really handy. I also love the new logo that they've done. Not much of a departure from what they had previously, but again, it goes with a modernization of the way that Volvo is representing its brand, and that, along with the rest of the reformed interior, really does add that air of modernity, but also gives you a nice classic feel, and also of course that very premium feel that people come to Volvo for. So I would say the interior gets a big tick for familiarity, whilst also bringing it into the modern age and what's going to be going forwards in the future. So driving the new XC90, you can really feel the changes, and a lot of traits from the EX90 in terms of cabin noise and comfort have been brought across to the new XC90. So the first one is a lot of the noise isolation technology implemented in the cabin of the EX90 has been brought across to the XC90. And they're also implementing that into the model year 26 XC60, so those will also benefit from a much quieter cabin. The second thing is the air suspension is now across all rungs of the trim levels for the XC90, meaning that you get a much smoother driving experience. And you can see just these divots in the road warning of an upcoming roundabout. They don't affect the ride whatsoever. You can feel them obviously because that's what they're designed to do, but it doesn't impede on your comfort in any way, which I think is a really big improvement. The other thing as well, having air suspension across the range allows them to implement different drive modes depending on what your preference would be. So you can see here, you've got your different drive modes that you'll be used to in the current crop of XC90. So you've got standard versus off-road. You've also got the soft versus firm steering feel, but now they've also added an option to turn the air suspension from soft to firm, much like it does with the performance setting of the EX90. It firms everything up, kind of makes the car less likely to roll into corners. So if I activate that now, I can feel the active air suspension working its way to ensure that the car stays nice and level even on these cambered, relatively tight turns. You know, you're talking about a 7-seater, 5-meter long SUV, and it handles these kinds of turns like they're absolutely nothing. That's one thing that Volvo have always done really well, is the driving experience. So it doesn't matter what size of the car is, from their estates, their saloons, to their SUVs now, they've always implemented a really, really solid driving experience. And I think this is just building on that, as they always have done, which is something Volvo have always been really good at, not necessarily crashing through the bar, but setting a new standard in terms of what they are able to offer, which I think is really nice. Another huge benefit of the new XC90 is the larger display, which you will have seen already. So of course that gives you added benefit of more screen real estate, just meaning that if I full screen the maps, you'll notice that it fills up more of the display, and it's also a little bit wider. So it's more square in its aspect ratio compared to the kind of narrow rectangle you had previously. And this gives you a huge benefit in terms of what it offers screen real estate wise, but they've also implemented the new EX90 software and also the EX30 software into this new format. So you can see, as opposed to having everything taken up by just the map, I've also now got quick controls accessible right at the bottom down here, and they are, as with the EX90 and EX30, contextual to the situation you're in. So it means that whatever you need at any given time, it's always going to be at the touch of a button, which is handy. They haven't reinvented the wheel when it comes to the DIM, the driver information module. That's still the same as what you'll be used to. So again, really, really good. They've just tweaked it ever so slightly, so it just looks a bit nicer, in line with what they've changed on the center display. You'll also notice some of the things that I was talking about back when we did the static walk around, is just the materials they've used to line the cabin. You'll be familiar with a lot of them, but they've moved away from animal products completely. So you've got the synthetic leather, which again, to my hand and to my eye, I can't actually tell the difference between them. It still feels very premium, and it still feels like it's going to be a very hard wearing material in the long run. But I really like this new divider, because you've got your birch or driftwood inlays on the dashboard itself, but you've also now got this cloth divider between the two, and I think that just adds a real nice level of depth to the cabin. It really suits it. And of course, being Volvo, they've got the premium aluminium band that runs across the dividing line of the dashboard as well. The new layout of the center armrest means that you get more storage in the armrest, whilst also having a better laid out cup holder arrangement. And of course, it wouldn't be Volvo without the beautiful orifice crystal gear selector. So it's not just down to the feel of the drive itself, it's everything you touch, everything you see has been refined in line with everything that Volvo stands for, which is sustainability, circular economy, but also providing a really, really solid car that you can feel safe in. And that's another aspect as well. They haven't changed any of the underpinnings when it comes to the safety of the XC90. And if you know anything about Volvo, you'll know that they're all about safety, but also the XC90 is near enough the safest car on the market today. It's got some incredible statistics behind it, but in terms of how it feels to be behind the wheel, you get a very commanding driving position, but you also know that you're in a very safe environment, which aids with the confidence that this car just exudes from whoever drives it. It doesn't matter if you're confident with large vehicles or not. Driving an EX90, you'll feel powerful and you'll feel like you are in control of your road that you're currently driving on. So I think that's something Volvo have done really, really well in keeping with that. Despite having a slightly softer ambient noise and slightly softer suspension, they haven't compromised in terms of how the car feels safety wise. So I think that's a real big win for Volvo on that side of things. And yeah, I think that going forwards, Volvo are going to be probably bringing these changes to their full lineup. You know, they've already talked about doing it with the XC60. I would imagine that XC40 won't be far behind, but for the time being, you've got a real nice glimpse into the future in terms of what Volvo are going to be offering soon. So the great news is these are now in circulation enough that we have vehicles available for demonstrations going forward. So as and when you want to reach out to discuss these amazing cars, we'll be happy to arrange it. Doesn't matter if you're looking for plug-in hybrid or indeed the mild hybrid as I'm driving here, we'll have a vehicle for you. Do give us a ring and we'll be happy to arrange a test drive at your leisure. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.